Morning, morning, morning. Welcome in. It's great to be here on a Thursday on KCMO Talk Radio. I had the outstanding opportunity to be a part of something last night that was humbling. That was a reminder for those of us who do not work in law enforcement for a living, just how dangerous it is and how lives and families can be upended in seconds. When I spent last night at Chicken and Pickle in North Kansas City with the family and friends and colleagues of Eric DeValcanair, the Kansas City, Missouri police detective, former Kansas City, Missouri police detective, who, of course, is now in prison. He is awaiting potential pardon from Governor Mike Parson. There is an appeal to the Missouri Supreme Court that is pending as well. But right now, Eric DeValcanair is in prison in the wake of the shooting and killing of Cameron Lamb back in December of 2019. And it was a chance to fundraise on behalf of the family. It was a chance to, frankly, just come together as a community, get an update, see how the family is doing, as Eric's now been in prison for the better part of more or less 3 months. And for me, it was eye-opening. You know, they asked me to speak, just say a couple of comments for a minute or two. And for me, I can't relate to somebody who is going to work every day wondering whether or not they're going to come home. The biggest thing I'm dealing with is a dopey caller here or there. That's it. No one's physically harming me. I might say something dumb, but yeah, it's not on me, right? It's on them. And for many of us, that's how it is. You're up early this morning, you're going to the office, you're getting ready for work, you're listening on your stream right now, whatever it might be, you're not thinking like cops do. I mean, 99% of us don't. But as I get set to have a third kid coming up here in March, of course, our third daughter is due on March 9th. The DeValcanair family has 3 children. That's where it's relatable to me. That's where suddenly you have a father who is not home with his family during, key years. His kids are give or take 21, 17, 15, in that range. And those are prime years. And to miss those years, you don't know how long, but to miss some of those years, to miss a day of those years over what happened in that Cameron Lamb case, which you want to talk about a disservice of justice by the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, that's what it is. I mean, I can't tell you how many Kansas City, Missouri cops I spoke with last night who said that could have been any of us. And this guy was by the book. He's bailed out his colleagues time and time again over a couple decade career. And what he did in that moment could have happened to any single one of us. So I spoke just as a father and a family man, and struggling to fathom what that family is going through right now. Having a father in prison, obviously you have an income hit in this entire thing as well. Kids certainly don't get cheaper as they get into their teens and go towards college. I mean, all those things were on the table and were getting talked about last night. And it was a humbling experience, a humbling thing to be a part of on a chilly, frigid, but well worth it and very inspiring event at Chicken and Pickle last night. So it was good to be there. It was good to be a part of that. The DeValcanair family is strong. It was something that was not pre-promoted publicly. Just to be clear, if you're listening and you're like, hey, I would have gone to that, that's not what the point of the event was. It was not intended to be something that there was a lot of attention towards. It was meant to be simply for colleagues and friends and family. And if there are further opportunities to fundraise amongst the public, I'll get you all that information on our social media. But for now, it was not really meant to be something where anyone and everyone could show up. But if that happens one day, of course, we'll be the first ones to tell you. here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Now, the backdrop of all this is yesterday there's more crime in Kansas City, Missouri. You've got Crown Center, another high-traffic entertainment district dealing with crime in this town. And if you missed it, here's some of the reporting from, let's play the Fox 4 clip here on the Crown Center shooting and what took place yesterday at about 5:30 in the afternoon.
Like that. It just sounded kind of like a muffled pop, 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 pop.
It happened near the food court in the lower level around 5:45 this evening. Police say two groups in their teens to early 20s got into a verbal argument, which escalated into gunfire. The sound sent people running in every direction. Brian Dunn, who's worked here for 20 years, was in the bathroom when someone started banging on the door.
So I'm like, okay. So he's going to open the door. He's sitting there like that. And he had blood going down his arm. And security's running up saying, hey, there's an active shooter. Everyone need to go.
So 6 people were shot. 3 people struck by gunfire that we know of, and then 3 individuals later on showed up at other area hospitals on their own. So the initial reports were 3 people. That increased to 6 as other folks ended up transporting themselves to the hospital. The ages of all but one victim, as was noted there, range from late teens to early 20s. There was one extra victim in their 50s. And this is happening, I don't want to say broad daylight because by 5:40 this time of year, it's more or less dark. But it's not like this is happening at 2 a.m. We're sitting here, and people are out and about and going to dinners and wrapping up their days. And you have this happening right in the middle of Crown Center, right near the food court. I mean, these are high-traffic areas. Now, we don't know a lot about what exactly took place yet. That investigation is still underway. But I remain convinced that as crime spirals out of control in high-crime areas, it will always end up leaking in to places that it typically would not be. We had somebody shot and killed outside of Union Station, 2 weeks ago now, early in the morning. That was about 7 a.m. near a bus stop. You've got this happening at Crown Center. We've covered ad nauseum crime taking place in entertainment districts, whether it's downtown, near Power and Light. Of course, the plaza has been a hot topic of conversation. And now Crown Center, the latest one. There are massive, forget the fact that the odds of you ending up near Crown Center or in Crown Center while a shooting takes place is 1 in 1,000. I get the odds. But you now have a situation where Kansas City cannot get its crime under control. The politicians have no answers. The prosecutor won't do her job. The police are scared to death to do proactive policing in the wake of the DeValcanaire case. And it is as bad, and the numbers back it up, by the way. It's as bad as it's ever been. 182 homicides last year. That's a record. And I know there's, we're 2 weeks into the new year, and I'm already seeing some of crime's down from last year at this time. Guys, we got a sample size that you can't even talk about yet. When you're 1/24th of the way through the year, which is about where we are, I don't want to hear about year-over-year data right now. We're 18 days into the new year. Stop. You have got a crisis on your hands. And as long as politics is going to be played, and that looks like I'm sure what the answer is going to be coming out of this, nothing is going to change. 913-408-7957 as we kick off a Thursday morning. Something that was really interesting and something I learned last night about our area law enforcement and how they feel about the current situation in this town. It stood out to me because there's less concern about the number of cops on the streets and the fact that the number of police officers is down so much in this town than you might think. I'll get to that. Plus, the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas, he's got a big visit today with someone from the White House. We'll tell you about coming up on KCMO 95.7 FM. Well, this was Going to be an interesting conversation this morning with Mayor Quentin Lucas. He joins us at 7:30 on Thursdays, and he put up on his social media yesterday that he is going to take part in a conversation today with Vice President Kamala Harris. He writes here, as we discuss the administration's efforts to keep Americans safe from gun violence and intimate partner violence. Is that domestic? What, intimate partner violence? Is that domestic violence?
Do we have a rebranding there?
Is that like going from homeless to houseless or the unhoused?
I was unaware.
I'll be intrigued to ask him about that coming up in just over an hour. He says, I thank the administration for all they are doing for American cities and towns, writes Quentin Lucas. You mean how they're overwhelming major American cities with illegal immigrants? I mean, I know that's not happening that we know of here in Kansas City, but I'm pretty sure that they are doing nothing good for major American cities right now. Heck, New York City Mayor Eric Adams is blasting this administration because, well, he full well knows, he understands now that Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, sending him illegal immigrants to deal with them is very good politics, by the way, for Greg Abbott, basically saying, here's what we've been dealing with for far too long. Join the party. You guys say you're sanctuary cities. Come on in. Chicago, New York. You guys talk a big game, and then we, bring these folks to you on a silver platter. We bust them up your way, and it's, whoa, this is too much. This is going to be a fun conversation at 7:30.
Well, they're asked where they would like to go as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You
want to go to New York? Sure. One-way ticket. Here you go, pal.
It often gets portrayed that these poor people they don't speak the language and they're just wandering around and shoved on a bus and dropped somewhere.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. They like New York, New York will put them in Madison Square Garden, put them at Center Court. Got a nice cozy bed to sleep in. So 1 o'clock today is going to be this event. I guess Quentin Lucas. We'll see who else is there. That's going to be joining Kamala Harris. I wonder if we'll get one of the great Kamala Harris insightful quotes of the year. We're only 18 days into the year, so we're waiting on something good for Kamala. And we'll see what comes of that later this afternoon. And, of course, the irony of the mayor doing this press conference one day after a shooting at Crown Center that leaves 6 people injured. Nobody dead, thank goodness, but 6 people shot yesterday. The irony should not be lost on any of us. So as I'm talking to folks in KCPD last night, we spend a lot of time on this show addressing the fact that Kansas City, Missouri is off 300 police officers, give or take. Right? They're down about 20% in staffing. They just can't recruit. And it's not just them. It's law enforcement across the board. But certainly Kansas City, Missouri, that's not paying what it should be paying. And on top of that is also one of the most dangerous jobs in the region, if not the most dangerous job in the region for a patrol officer. And then on top of that, even when you arrest bad guys, you have no confidence in your prosecutor and the prosecutor's office to actually put these bad guys in jail. That creates a perfect storm, right? I mean, I've got a story here. It's really unbelievable, but I got the paper right in front of me. You want to talk about a guy who should be sitting in prison somewhere? Well, this guy's not. Ishmael Wilson, back on December 18th, 1 month ago to the day, pled guilty in Jackson County Circuit Court to an amended charge of stealing by physically taking. Wilson had been previously charged under the aforementioned case with 1 count of robbery in the first degree, 1 count of armed criminal action, and 1 count of tampering and attempt to tamper with a victim. Instead, he pleads it down to stealing by physically taking. And by the way, you want to know this guy's background? Prior to his charging in this case, Wilson associated himself with the Solid Ass Family hybrid group. That's a gang, basically. Bunch of geniuses. The Solid Ass Family. Wow, that's a great name for a gang. And has had known and suspected involvement in multiple violent offenses throughout Kansas City. And the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office lets this guy plead down from robbery in the first degree to an amended charge of stealing by physically taking. And basically they say, all right, well, check in with your parole officer once a month. Those are the folks who are out on the streets right now in Jackson County, even after they get arrested. And you wonder why you have a hard time recruiting. But these folks were mentioning to me, they said, hey, yeah, we'd love to have more staffing, but staffing's not going to fix this because there is no proactive policing that is being done in Kansas City, Missouri right now. And I know I'm speaking in generalities here, but I mean, I was told this by multiple people at the Vulcan Air event last night. All these things that we used to do, to make sure that these bad guys were afraid of us. They're not doing it anymore. They have no interest because they're worried that they could be the next Eric DeValcanair. They could be the next ones who, after 20 years of service, suddenly end up in a prison cell with no way to take care of their family and missing their kids growing up. All for doing common police tactics that have been getting done for years and decades on end. That's it. And that's a way that, we have to look at this. Yes, the staffing matters, but it was kind of eye-opening to me because I talk to a lot of folks in law enforcement on a fairly regular basis, but that was a new one. To bring that up, that was new. When it was, yes, we'd like more staffing, but boy, the problem is so much bigger than that. And until the larger problem gets fixed, even if we are fully staffed, that's not necessarily going to change the outlook right now, based on how bad the relationship is between law enforcement and the prosecutor's office and the politicians. 6:27 as we roll through the 6 o'clock hour on KCMO Talk Radio. It's so good to be here with you, 95.7 FM. It is fun, too, when I go to events, I'm realizing a lot of people are still listening, but they're still listening on 7:10 a.m. So I am just sitting here making sure that you know as well as I do that we are readily available on 95.7 FM. And hit that preset on your radio dial. And you will very much enjoy listening. I promise you that much. You're going to have a blast listening on 95.7 FM. You get to miss out on the... You miss all of that. So it's all good. It's all good, and it is great to be here. Laura Kelly is going to be on the show this morning, the governor of Kansas, at 8:30. So we got Mayor Quentin Lucas at 7:30. We got the governor at 8:30. Back-to-back hours on KCMO Talk Radio. Coming up, for those of you that claim that, the big bankers, the CEOs in the banking industry, they love Joe, they can't stand Donnie. Well, somebody said something on CNBC yesterday that is the bravest thing that's been said by somebody in his position in years. I'll play it next. You just heard there from the mayor of Kansas City, Quentin Lucas, our weekly conversation, this time, of course, in the wake of a shooting yesterday at Crown Center. 5:30 in the afternoon, a bunch of teens open up fire. 6 people get shot. Nobody dead, thank goodness, but another ugly situation involving violence in this town. Greg is in Kansas City. He is a business owner. Greg, good morning. What's happening?
Good morning. I'm very, very scared. I work and live downtown. I've had several meetings with the mayor regarding the fact that we don't have a jail. We haven't had a jail for 4 years. We're the largest city in the country without a jail. Right now, there's nobody being prosecuted for any sort of property crime or any sort of vandalism and et cetera. Our criminals are emboldened. They'll come into places like Crown Center and the Plaza, do what they want. The mayor said that it's been a victimless crime, but obviously they are carrying guns, and we saw that last night. The guns were used in a mall that we all want to go shop and take our children to. He does not care. Our police officers get paid $55,000 a year. They're the lowest paid police force in the area. He cannot fill these positions. There are 300 open positions. 55 officers are retiring this year. We have 20 people in the academy. The problem's only going to continue to get worse. We are missing 200 administrative people. We can't even dial 911 anymore because there's nobody to answer. We are dying in crime. We are buried in it, and the mayor will not lift a finger to help us.
What about, listen, the thing that I've been most critical on is trying to figure out why there isn't more blame put on the prosecutor's office, who is letting way too many criminals away with slaps on the wrist. I mean, if I could have him do one thing, I would beg him to use his bully pulpit to criticize that office. He's had opportunities to do it on this show and elsewhere. He doesn't want to do it. What do you think about that angle, out of curiosity?
You can arrest as many as you want. We don't have any place to put them. We have 200 beds in 2 county jails that are in Johnson County, Missouri, and another county that slips my mind. They only get the violent criminals going there. And we have so many violent criminals that it's like last in, first out. No one's even finishing their sentences. The criminals laugh when the police arrest them because they're going to be on the street in 4 hours because we have no place to put them. You can have the best prosecutor in the world. It's not going to fix the problem because we do not have a jail.
There's definitely a problem, but I mean, as I was talking to some KCPD folks yesterday, I mean, they've got prisons, of course, in outstate Missouri that they use that a lot of these folks should be in, that they don't want to do that either.
No, there's only 200 beds. It's not enough. We need 400 beds.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So, it's a numbers issue. You can do it all day long. Their 200 beds are full all the time. It's not solving the problem, is it?
No, it's not. But here's the thing. I mean, they have dragged their feet now for years on a jail in this town because I believe there's people who don't want a jail in this town on city council.
I believe so, too. I'm calling them out. Some of the council people do, and some of them don't.
Yeah.
And the ones that don't are going to be brought out to light right now. I'm working with the business community. There'll be several emails going out like you've heard me doing in the past. We're going to hold the mayor accountable.
Well, Greg, here's the thing. When is the business community, the Chamber of Commerce clown show, when are they going to stand up for the damn business owners in this town who, I mean, how many retail folks in Crown Center are going to see their business go down even further over the next few weeks because of bad publicity around this? Where is the leadership and the backbone of the Chamber of Commerce people?
I sit on the leadership group for the Chamber of Commerce. They do not like me. I've been calling them out on this. We need the chamber to step up and quit supporting the mayor's initiatives to build, buildings and have all these great events when they need to be saying, Mr. Mayor, our businesses aren't safe. We need them to be taken care of. I'm sorry about the profanity. I'm just very upset.
I understand, Greg. Thank you. Have a great day. We appreciate it. We did have to dump Greg there for a brief moment. Hey, Garner, good job, buddy. You're off the...
I was wondering if I was going to get to use the dump button at some point.
Garner got to use the dump button. I got less than a minute. Glenn, you're next up in Kansas City. Go.
Thanks. Pete, the problem in Missouri is the leadership. It's always been the leadership. You're looking at the people that gave you the problem to solve the problem. It's not going to work. He's sitting here talking about across the river. You have a Kansas City, Missouri cop, ex-Kansas City, Missouri cop that is now chief of police that has lowered their homicide rate by 60%, who used to work in Missouri but left because he's never felt so disrespected by his leadership and the people he worked for. And until they solve that, Gene Peters Baker, they're both in the same. They're both in each other's pockets. He's got the Biden administration coming in, taking advice from them for what?
Yeah.
What the hell have they done right? It's never going to change until the people actually get these people out. Because, let's face it, he was going to have it under 100, homicides under 100. Yeah. We're going to hit 200 before it goes under 100.
Thank you very much there. We appreciate it. Thank you so much there, Glenn. 913-408-7957. Laura Kelly at 8:30. News coming up in a minute. We're back with you on KCMO. Wild 7 o'clock hour. Garner got to hit the dump button for the first time since he's been filling in for Mark, running the board for the last several weeks here on KCMO Talk Radio. Mark is set to return on Monday, by the way. Garner's been doing a bang-up job, though, and man, you were smooth on that dump button there.
It was yesterday or the day before. I was like, I've been here 2 months and I haven't had to use the dump button once, and I finally got to use it.
You got to use it, my man. You got to use it. And by the way, you're getting some props on the text line. Pete, nice job by Garner. I couldn't even tell what got dumped.
Then it worked.
That's a smooth dump button there. So nice job. You got your jollies there. You got to hit the dump button. So
New button.
You hit it. You hit it well. And it was a wild 7 o'clock hour with Quentin Lucas. And then, of course, the caller reaction after the shooting at Crown Center. So let me just add this to the conversation. Then I got a lot of stuff here. Laura Kelly will be on the show, bottom of the hour, 8:30. So today I'm going to be on Kansas City Weekend Review. That show gets recorded on Thursdays. And, it plays tomorrow night and then on Sundays on Kansas City PBS. So Nick Haynes is going to have me on the show. So I get an email from Nick this morning, and he asks those of us on the panel, he says, can I gauge your appetite for discussing Crown Center, or should I push it into the big story that we missed? Nick goes, it's a big story. I'm not sure what we can add. I said, hey, I think we should talk about it. Listen to the caller reaction we've had all morning, the response, the conversation with the mayor. I said to him, full transparency, I think we should talk about it. You got a major, you got 6 people shot at a major entertainment district in this town. So I voted yeah. I don't see how you don't talk about this. But of course, my colleagues who, view the world a little bit differently from how I do, and I'm not going to say who said what. I'm just going to share with you the broader point here. Some of my colleagues on the panel, at least one, is like, we don't have a lot of the details. It might be too soon to assess with clarity what this has to do with other incidents. I don't know if we really need to be talking about the shooting at Crown Center. Excuse me? Crown Center gets hundreds of thousands of people via foot traffic every year in this town, and 6 people were just shot there at 5:30 in the afternoon. This is not a story that is, micro to Crown Center or that little part of town. How many people from around the entire metro want to go, consider going to Crown Center out of the 2.5 million people in the Kansas City metro? Not much to add. This is absolutely a story we should be talking about. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just saying it's a debate right now, John.
Clarity usually is something you have that gives you enough information to make a decision, right? I would think. This seems to be pretty clear, the issue.
Yeah.
Right? This isn't an outside guy stalking the city. Everybody hide.
Same crap we've been dealing with.
Well, right. And how it's connected to the other incidents, it's SSDD, same stuff, different day.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. I totally agree. But, here's the thing. When some of these media folks spent the last few years trying to convince you that the cops are the bad guys, the prosecutor does a great job in this town, the criminals are the real victims because they're victims of society, and then crime ends up running rampant all over Kansas City, of course they don't want to talk about this. Of course not. Because they laid the foundation for what we're living through, which is a soft on crime mentality and approach that is very prevalent in this city. So, of course, they don't want to talk about people getting shot at Crown Center. Why would they? I'm not going to blame them directly for this. I never think that's fair. I mean, the people that, pulled the trigger are the ones who to blame for this, right? I mean, the criminals. Now, if someone has a criminal history of these folks who were shooting up Crown Center, then you can look at, maybe their criminal backgrounds, what the prosecutors did or did not do. But I'm not going to sit here and point the blame at anybody else other than the people who pulled triggers at Crown Center. That being said, a sympathetic media establishment in Kansas City has certainly not helped, at the very least. And that's me being polite at 8:10 on a busy Thursday morning on KCMO. 913-408.
Garner's already got his workout there.
And Garner, yeah. I don't want to be hitting that. I don't want you hitting that dump button again. So I'm going to take it easy on you for the next few minutes. That way, nothing bad happens here. Joe Biden was surprised by the cost of smoothies. Did you see this? Yeah, he was caught off guard that when he was in Pennsylvania last week, his smoothie was $6. Now, I go around town. I like a smoothie once in a while. I like to eat healthy. And, you get a decent smoothie, it's going to run you $7, $8, $9, depending on where you are. So Joe going to Pennsylvania and getting a $6 smoothie, I call that a deal. But he got some grief for it yesterday in the White House press briefing. Before I get to that, let me play the gaffe from the president from Friday when he's up in Pennsylvania. This was in Allentown.
Look, we're going to get a chance to talk, apparently, after the fire station. So rather than, by the way, anybody want a coffee? It's on me. Right? You take a smoothie? Well, they're $6, but I'll do it anyway.
They're $6, but I'll do it anyway. It's like he actually got out in the real world and realized, whoa, this little smoothie thing here is $6. What's going on? Now, listen, who knows if he even knew what he was saying. But obviously it doesn't look good because his whole sales pitch is the economy's doing great. Anyone who's complaining about inflation is just playing politics. Life is good and unemployment's down. Everything's hunky-dory. So it was a gaffe from that perspective. Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, gets asked about this yesterday, and here's how that went.
Friday, the president was at a coffee shop in Pennsylvania, and he seemed to be surprised that the smoothie was $6 and how expensive it was. I'm curious, so is the president now realizing the costs that Americans are bearing?
So look, when he went over to you all to the press corps, he was having a good time, right? Offered up to as you know, offered up to buy them coffee. There was a big group there, and he made sure everyone got coffee and pastries. So I just want to make that really clear.
His comment was $6, and I'll do it anyway.
I hear you, and that let's not forget what the trip was about. The trip was about small businesses, right? There have been 16 million small businesses that have started and filled out for applications. That's a big deal. That is really important. It was a good trip, and you all saw that.
So expensive.
He was joking around. He was certainly joking around with the press corps. You know that he offered to buy coffee. That's what he did, and pastries. But I think the most important thing about that trip is that he was able to visit a small business.
All right, so that's Karine Jean-Pierre trying to find every excuse in the book for the big guy. He's just trying to get up there and talk about how great things are, and he's just having fun. He's offering to buy people smoothies. By the way, Joe ain't buying anyone anything.
I was thinking the same.
Either Hunter's buying or the government, the taxpayer, you and I are buying. Joe ain't buying anything out of his own pocket. The guy, for the 50 years of his life, he soaked the taxpayer. Guy hasn't made any money in the private sector in 50 years. So anything Joe's buying, even with his own money, is technically our money, or it's Hunter's money, for his latest painting that looks like something, my 5-year-old put together. So I'm not buying any of that. But that being said, we do have a jobless claims report that came out this morning. Weekly jobless claims here in the last 40 minutes or so came down. Unemployment initial filings for unemployment insurance totaled 187,000 for the week ending January 13th. That is the lowest level since September 24th of 2022. So this is a labor market that is continuing to show surprising resiliency in the early days of 2024. That is good. I'm not going to downplay that. That being said, what it also means, as far as I can tell from the outside looking in, if you're going to look at that and simply say, well, the economy's doing great. I'm glad that people are working. I'm glad that people have jobs. But that jobless claims number coming in below expectations tells me that, one, the Fed cannot bring down interest rates. They just can't do it. That would be suicide for this economy when inflation is still running hotter than expected. You can't go down that road right now. You can't even think about it. You got to keep interest rates where they are. The minute they bring down rates, inflation, which right now is still higher than the Fed's target at 2%, you just simply cannot go down that road and decrease rates in this economy. You will spike inflation back up to 4 or 5%. It's already too high at 3.5%. Great, it's down from 9%, but it's still 70% above where the Fed wants it to be. You can't bring down rates right now in this economy. You got to hope that you do pull off a soft landing, but understand that Main Street is still getting killed no matter what Wall Street tells you. Talked to a half dozen guys last night at this fundraiser for Eric DeValconaire, the former KCPD detective who's in prison. And they all were saying how much they're sucking wind when it comes to their profit margins, right? That's the cost of everything. The cost of labor keeps going up. So this number's good, but don't let that fool you from the pain that is still being felt on Main Street. If you're in corporate America, maybe you don't feel it. But small business, the backbone of the country, they still are feeling it. 913-408-7957. Laura Kelly, governor of Kansas, bottom of the hour. Got a lot to get to with her on tax policy. Will she ultimately cut taxes for Kansans? It's going to be a big part of the conversation on KCMO. Coming up next, by the way, a new NFL head coach dove into the racial issues, and it was awkward. It was painful. We'll share it next. Well, this is awkward. Sports media is the worst, by the way. It's why I left it. I used to do sports media in, I did it a little bit in Oklahoma. I did news and sports down there. I went to New York. I did it CBS, WFAN, Sports Illustrated, did all that stuff. And then started working at Fox News and doing shows there and anchoring there and got out of sports on a full-time basis. I still love sports. Heck, I'm freezing my butt off at Arrowhead the other night, minus 30-degree weather. I love being a sports fan. But I do not miss dealing with sports media because they are, in many ways, worse than news media. I know it's hard to believe, but they are. Because at least the news media people who have an agenda know what they're talking about. They're lost souls, but at least they know what they're talking about. Sports media, they just don't know what they're talking about. So the New England Patriots' new head coach, his name is Gerard Mayo. He played for the team. He takes over for Bill Belichick, right? He has his introductory press conference yesterday, and he gets asked about race and color. Now, why? He is a black man, of course. He's an NFL head coach now. But I don't know. I think the Patriots just won like 2 or 3 games this year. I'm much more interested in hearing about how he's going to help this team win more games than his thoughts on race. And I would imagine Patriots fans really care a lot more about that, too. I know they're a little woke there in Boston, but they're also diehard fans. They love their teams up there. The Red Sox, the Celtics, the Bruins, the Patriots. Pretty sure they don't care what color Gerard Mayo is as long as he's winning games. But, of course, the media can't help itself. So Gerard Mayo went viral, the New England Patriots' new head coach. I'm trying to figure out where to put new. Do I say the new England Patriots head coach or the New England Patriots' new head coach? I think the latter sounds better, so that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. So here he was yesterday saying, yes, he absolutely does see color.
I do see color because I believe if you don't see color, you can't see racism. And whatever happens, black, white, disabled person, I've always, even someone with disabilities, I always, for the most part, people are like, when they're young, they kind of make the spot hot. Younger people know what that means. But what I would say is, no, I want you to be able to go up to those people and really understand those people. So it goes back to whatever it is, black, white, yellow, it really doesn't matter, but it does matter so we can try to fix a problem that we all know we have.
The problem that we all know we have. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, there aren't still racist people in the world. There are. It's terrible. There always will be. Just because human beings are inherently flawed, there is evil out there, so it will exist. But culturally today in America, are we in 2024 a racist nation? No. In fact, I make the strong argument that you're seeing a reverse racism going into play, courtesy of DEI, which picks oppressors and those who are oppressed based on nothing more than their skin color. That's the premise of it. So I listened to Gerard Mayo, who, by the way, just became the youngest head coach in the NFL at 37. Has only been a low-level assistant for a few years now, get this head coaching gig. It's pretty good. I mean, there's a lot of folks who are 37 who have only been in the NFL for a few years who could never sniff a head coaching job. He's gotten there. He's got one, and God bless him for that. That's great. But to then, during a press conference, go up there and claim that, yes, you absolutely see race because if you don't see race, you don't see racism. Well, it seems to me in part you can see racism. Like, I can tell if someone is being a racist. It's not very difficult in 2024 to be like, okay, that's a racist comment, thing, whatever you want to call it. But then also not seeing race every single part of my day. Whether it's someone at Quick Trip, someone at work, like, I don't know how you can't separate those two. It's very easy to separate it unless you don't want to separate it. And I think back to something Todd Bowles, who is the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're in the playoffs this weekend. They won their wild card game on Monday against the Eagles. Listen to what Todd Bowles, a fellow black head coach down in Tampa Bay, this is back in October of 2022. I dug this clip up. He got asked about going up against Mike Tomlin, Pittsburgh Steelers head coach, who also is a black man. And take a listen to how Todd Bowles handled this.
You and Mike Tomlin are two of the few black head coaches in the league. I wonder what your relationship is like with them and your thoughts on Steve Wilks joining that fold.
I have a very good relationship with Tomlin. We don't look at what color we are when we coach against each other. We just know each other. I have a lot of very good white friends that coach in this league as well, and I don't think it's a big deal as far as us coaching against each other. I think it's normal. Wilkes got an opportunity to do a good job. Hopefully he does it. And we coach ball. We don't look at color.
But you also understand that representation matters too, right? And that when young aspiring coaches or even football players
Listen to this. Listen to Todd Bowles. I don't see color. We're all just ball coaches. Yeah, I know the guy, but we're not like, hey, what's up, black man? Like, we're just two dudes. And then do you hear the follow-up question there from that reporter? Well, you understand, right, don't you? The opportunity angle of this. And you can tell that, listen, I'm pretty sure that reporter who just asked that question was a white female. I know you can't tell who's a guy, who's a girl, and anything like that these days, but I'm pretty sure that's a white female asking a black man, well, you understand what this is really about, don't you? And Todd Bowles just puts an end to it.
They see someone that looks like them, maybe grew up like them. That has to mean something.
Well, when you say you see you guys and look like them and grow up like them, means that we're oddballs to begin with. And I think the minute you guys stop making a big deal about it, everybody else will as well.
How about that? Todd Bowles saying it like it is. Laura Kelly, governor of Kansas, joins me. Don't miss it right after the news. 23-year-old kid wins his first playoff game. He thanks his Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and NBC decides, yeah, we don't want to play that. Yeah, that happened. Here we go. This is C.J. Stroud. He's a rookie from Ohio State. He's got an incredible story, by the way, I'll get to here. But think about a kid winning his first playoff game, and that's what he is. I mean, he's 23. This is now when I start to feel old as a millennial, when I see kids or guys born in the 2000s, like playing NFL football. And when I was looking at his Wikipedia page, I'm like, he was born October of 2001. What the? Oh, my goodness. I remember exactly where I was. But anyway, guy wins his first NFL playoff game. And I'll play for you the first original clip of what C.J. Stroud, Houston Texans quarterback, they win their playoff game last Saturday. They're going to Baltimore this weekend. Of course, the winner of the Ravens-Texans game is going to be taking on the winner of the Chiefs-Bills game. And here's what C.J. Stroud had to say.
First and foremost, I just want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I mean, it's been amazing being in this city for as short as I've been, but the love that I've got, I've really just been doing it for Houston, man. People back home, I'm blessed enough to be in the position I am and blessed enough to be playing at a high level right now, and we got to just keep it going, but I'm super blessed.
All right, there he is. That's C.J. Stroud. Once again, the first 5 seconds.
First and foremost, I just want to give all glory and praise to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
All right. Not the first athlete to say it. Won't be the last athlete to say it. So that game was on NBC. And what does NBC decide to do? Well, they reshare the clip on their social media pages. And here's what it sounded like.
CJ, your first playoff game in your first NFL season and a record-setting performance for you. What does this moment mean?
I mean, it's been amazing being in this city for as short as I've been, but the love that I've got, I've really just been doing it for Houston, man. People back home. I'm blessed enough to be in the position I am and blessed enough to be playing at a high level right now. And we got to just keep it going, but I'm super blessed.
A line was left out there, like the opening line, where he says, quote, "Give all glory and praise to my Lord Jesus Christ." I mean, it's been amazing being in the city for as short as I've been with the love of God. NBC specifically cut that out of their social media accounts when they reposted that clip. And by the way, that clip has gotten millions of views. They intentionally did that. Now, you can see it in the video where the reporter asked the question, and then the way they cut the video, you can tell that something was edited out. But you wouldn't know it was edited out unless you saw the original quote. And the original quote aired on TV, but then as it went to social media, somebody at NBC was like, yeah, we don't need that stuff about, Lord and Savior and Jesus and all that. Hey, we don't want to air that on our social media pages at NBC. And trust me, that's not some low-level staffer who's like, this God Jesus thing, I don't need to hear that. That is a direction from somebody at NBC. And I've told you, I've a good buddy that works at NBC. And he walks around the hallways, by the way, and he is just beside himself at every turn. It is exactly what you would expect at a place like that. And this is just another key example of what you will see. I mentioned sports media. I've said it for a long time as someone who worked in it for years before going over to news. It is woker than news media. News media has much more balance than anything you get in sports media. And it's one of the reasons that I left it. I said, I can't get ahead on the sports media side. It is not intellectually stimulating. I love sports. I love being a sports fan, but it's not intellectually stimulating. I don't want to be the guy who's 65 years old pretending that my day is ruined because a pitcher threw ball 4 with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 9th inning on the road in Oakland. Like, I don't want to be that guy. There are real life things happening right now that actually matter in the world. I mean, sports matter. I love it when my teams win. I love watching teams win. I love going to games. But in the end, it's sports. It's an escape. It's for our enjoyment. So that's one of the many reasons I got out. But this is also one of them. Because the people behind the scenes and even those on camera, they don't want to speak truth to power. They do not have a lot of interest in doing that. And that's sad to say. And this C.J. Stroud thing is just the latest example of it. So whether it's local sports media or national, you got to be careful who you trust. And I don't say that with any kind of joy. It's just an unfortunate reality of the situation. 913-408-7957 as we approach 9 o'clock on KCMO Talk Radio. It is so good to be here with you as always. I want to give you an example of somebody who is not behind bars in this town who should be, and it ties to the biggest story of the day. And by the way, as C.J. Stroud said, give all glory and praise to Lord Jesus Christ. I don't think that's going to be canceled out. We'll get to more next.